I'm basically going to be exposing all my study secrets for you in this video. No, I'm gonna trip over that coffee in a minute. Hi everyone, how's it going? So in today's video, I just wanted to sit down and have a chat with you about ways to study maths at university. Basically tips and tricks and bits of advice that I've picked up over the years that I would have found really helpful to know in my first year of university. So that's what this video is going to be, and it's also my most highly requested video ever. So I've really tried to pack it with some useful advice, and I've also tried to go for some tips that I really haven't heard other people talking about. One or two of them, I mean, some of them are not groundbreaking, but hopefully one or two of them you've never heard before, so hopefully I'm bringing something to the table here. Before we get started, just jumping in here to say I'm going to be making a part 2 of this video where I talk about revision tips and tricks, because this video is very focused on things I did during term to study for maths. So if you're interested in the part 2, hang around because that's coming soon. Okay, so the first study tip I have, and something I would really have liked to have known in first year, is that a lot of studying maths at university comes down to your mindset. Hear me out before you skip ahead to the more practical pieces of advice. I will have a TED talk linked down below that explains this better than I'm about to. I highly recommend you go watch that. And I put this at the beginning because I genuinely think this is the differentiator between students who do really well and students who don't. But basically, when you first start studying maths at university, it can be a bit overwhelming. Like, you might walk into a lecture and have no idea what's going on. That happened to me a lot. And the thing is, that's completely normal, and everyone around you is struggling just as much as you. And it's really, really important that you have a positive, like, can-do attitude about it, because it's been shown to have a physical effect on how your brain grows. Even when I was having really low points at university, I would just tell myself, like, I am capable of doing this and I am going to get through it. And just having that kind of innate self-confidence will really help you, because a lot of maths just comes down to perseverance. That's my pep talk for today. Alright, so the next tip is something that I started doing around second year, which is that I started reading ahead and preparing before a lecture. This isn't groundbreaking, and I had been told that many times, but I just didn't think it was worth putting in the effort. I kind of had this attitude where I was like, if I have to sit through a lecture anyway, why am I going to waste my own time teaching the content to myself? But the thing about university maths is that it takes a while just for it to sink in and for you to make connections between what you're learning and what you've learned in other classes, and that kind of deep understanding is what is examined at university, so it's what you need to get really good at, and it just takes time. So when you prepare for a lecture, and I just mean spending like 5 to 10 minutes skimming over the notes, or if you don't have online lecture notes for a course, if you're following a book, just glancing over the next couple of pages, just to give yourself a rough idea of what is going to be in the lectures. Taking those 5 or 10 minutes beforehand just to go over the lecture material, it meant that I was a lot more confident in lectures, because I'd walk in already kind of knowing what was going to be said, and I was able to follow a lot more of what was going on. But secondly, it meant, what did I say? B meant that I had already begun that process of understanding things, which, like I said, takes time, and you might need to go over things several times before they start to click. You just get so much more out of a lecture when you've prepared for it, because you can actually follow what's going on a lot more. It's also a great opportunity to ask questions at the end of a lecture, and if you haven't prepared, you sometimes don't know what you don't know, because that's how little you can follow. At least that was my experience. My next tip is also to do with lectures, and that's to really try and understand what you're writing rather than copying it out. So for me, what this looked like is, hang on, let me get my notes. So for example, some of my modules had online lecture notes which looked like this. They were all typed up, and I would print them out, go to lectures with this booklet, and I would just annotate explanations. So when a lecturer said something out loud and I thought in my head, oh, I get that now, I would write down what they had said out loud that helped me understand it next to it. What that meant is that when I came back to revise, my notes were a lot more valuable to me than if I had just copied stuff out without understanding it, which is what I did a lot in my first and second year. I would literally show up, tune out, copy out, and then I'd look at those notes 6 months later and I wouldn't even remember writing them. Anything that I had written down that I didn't understand in the moment, I definitely didn't understand it 6 months later. And if there was something that I had missed, like an explanation I didn't quite catch, at my university, and I think most universities, they record the lectures, so the same day I would go back and rewatch it. Obviously not every lecturer will put their notes online, like typed up, so that can be a bit harder when you're trying to write out the notes and annotate explanations, so that's when I would really go back and rewatch them. So for example, I had notes like this, which I would kind of write them out, and I'd indent, you know, proofs and definitions and that kind of thing. I had like an indentation system so that they were easier to read, and then afterwards I'd go back, highlight like the different things, and I would annotate the margins and put explanations in there just so that the notes are as useful to me as possible. The next tip is to do with tutorial sheet questions or example sheets or whatever they're called at your university. So something I started doing around my 3rd year is if I got stuck and if I looked at the mark scheme, I would try the question again, like closing the mark scheme, even though I'd just read through the solution. Like, I would just try it again just to make sure I actually could do it without the mark scheme, because so many times I couldn't, and it just, like, you don't really know if you could do a question under exam conditions until you've worked it all the way through without ever once looking at the mark scheme. My next tip is about office hours. So office hours are hours that your lecturer who teaches your courses has set aside specifically so that if you're stuck on something or if you didn't understand something in lectures, you can go to their office and see them and get that problem sorted out. And I don't know why, I never went to an office hour before my final year of university. I think I had this idea in 1st year that I shouldn't need to ask anyone for help, but if I got stuck on something, it was kind of my problem, that I should go and just sort it out on my own. But the thing is, at university, it's really difficult, and sometimes you have to use the resources available to you, and I mean, why not use them if they're there? So yeah, going to office hours in my final year just saved me so much time and stress. Obviously your lecturer isn't the only person you can talk to about things if you're stuck. Like, you can talk to your friends and have study groups and that kind of thing. That really helped me. Really, the people you surround yourself with at university will make a difference to your grade. Like, make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who have similar goals to you, because that will kind of motivate you to be better. And my last tip is that there are lectures on YouTube. I don't know if you already knew that. I didn't find out about that until my 3rd year of university, so I was quite late to the party on that one. But yeah, I mean, you're using YouTube as a resource right now, which is great. But in case you weren't aware that there were actual lectures on YouTube from universities like MIT and Caltech, that's something I started doing, is that when I didn't understand something in lectures, I'd find a different explanation for it in one of these lectures, and sometimes just hearing it explained a different way made more sense to me. You know, we all understand things differently, everyone's brain works a bit differently. So yeah, just using every resource available to you, including lectures on YouTube, is something that I wish I had known about in 1st year. And I think that's everything. That's all my tips and tricks, all my secrets exposed for how I studied maths at university, and I'll be making a part 2 of this video where I talk about revision tips and tricks, so stick around if you're interested in that. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.